Aew Dynamite defeated NXT for the first time in 6 months in the ratings. Aew Dynamite got their best rating in the last 8 months, and AEW Dynamite perhaps have got their best consistent quarter hour ratings of all time. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Wrestling, here to break down the AEW ratings, break down the quarters, see who drew, see who didn't drew, see who lost a shitload of viewers. But surprisingly, this week for AEW, that wasn't really the case. It didn't really lose many viewers. We're used to, in AEW, seeing massive drop-offs. I mean, massive drop-offs from quarter one to quarter two. And even then, throughout the rest of the show, you would still see a big loss in viewership. Sometimes by the end, when they get to the final quarter, they get to the main event, they could be 300, 400,000 down on what they opened quarter one with. But this week was a lot more consistent for Beach Break, so we're going to look at the numbers in just a little bit. Now, of course, some things do stay the same. Quarter one had the highest viewership and highest key demo, but other than that, there's not a lot between these quarters. Very consistent from start to finish, and I guess it was a pretty good episode of Dynamite. You had the debut of Mina Sharakiwa, you had MJF finally getting his answer, whether or not he's been introduced and added to the Hurt Syndicate. You had that big world title steel cage match. So there was some good stuff on the show. Entertaining. Let's give him a bit of credit. So here we go. We're going to quarter one, which was obviously the opener. And it did 732,000 views. So that's how they opened up the show from 8 o'clock to 8:15. They got 243,000 viewers in the key demo, which was the equivalent of a 0.18. It was Adam Page and Will Ospreay versus Josh Alexander and Konsuke Takeshita. So that was the opening quarter, just a tag team match with those four guys. Moving into quarter two, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m, it was Adam Page and Ospreay continued. They faced, obviously, Alexander and Takeshita. That match finished. We then got Moxley and Joe with a video backstage, just a video hyping up the main event. And then we got a top flight promo. This went down 6% to 689,000. Which is a loss of just over 43,000. And in the key demo, it went down 7% to 225,000. But not a big loss compared to what we're used to seeing in this quarter. We're used to seeing them lose a lot more than that. Quarter three, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m, we got Zach Gowen versus Ricochet, the one-legged man versus the bald guy. This went down 4%. To 664,000, so a loss of 25,000. However, the key demo went up 2%, so it actually went up to 240,000 in the key demo. Quarter four was then Top Flight versus Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. We got post-match with Dustin Rhodes, Sammy Guevara, Leo Rush and Action Andretti. This went up 5% in viewership to 696, the second highest quarter of the show. And they went up 4% in the key demo to 249,000. So an increase in both viewership and key demo. I'm assuming people like to see the Hurt Syndicate. That's what I'm taking from that. Maybe, who knows. We then went into quarter five, 9 o'clock to 9:15. It was the Hurt Business and MJF with their live promo. MJF getting added to the group. And then Toni Storm versus Mina Shirakawa and two other women that I'm not too sure. One was Sky Blue, the other one I actually have no idea who she was. It lost 2%, but really small loss there, down 11,000 to 685,000, and a 2% loss in the key demo, which was a 5,000 loss, down to 234,000. Then quarter six, it was a continuation of that women's fatal four-way, followed by a post-match with Mercedes Moné, Jamie Hayter, and the Sabu tribute from Taz. This went up 1% in the viewership to 690,000. And it went down 4% in the key demo, down to 225,000. We then seen quarter seven. Unfortunately, a bit of a blow here, down 5% in viewership, 35,000 down to 655,000. It was MJF and the Hurt Business promo, Nigel McGuinness, Daniel Garcia, Stokely Hathaway, FTR, and Daddy Magic with a live promo. So, yeah, you put the likes of Daddy Magic and FTR in there, and I kind of expect the numbers to go down. I mean, there was 2 ad breaks during this quarter, and it was the only quarter to have 2 ad breaks, so, I mean, maybe that's partly the reason why it was the, one of the lower performing quarters of the show, but not great overall. Quarter 8 then, 9:45 to 10 p.m. Joe versus Moxley in the cage. Went down 1%, 4,000 viewers tuned out. Went down to 651,000 in viewership, but we got a 1% gain in the key demo. So the key demo actually went up 1% to 218,000. And then in the overrun, which lasted 13 minutes to 10 o'clock to 10:13, it was Joe versus Moxley continued. And then we got the post-match with the Death Riders, Powerhouse Hobbs, Gabe Kidd, Okada, Omega, Young Bucks, and Swerve. And again, this went up 3% in viewership, 673,000, and in the key demo it went up 4% to 227,000. So, increase there in both viewership and key demo. The show finished 682,000 viewers, and it finished with a 0.17 in the key demo, which came to 229,000 viewers. So that is it. That's your ratings there for Dynamite. Like I said, pretty consistent. Not a massive drop off from, obviously, if the first quarter's the highest, it always is. If you take away the first quarter, the numbers are very consistent. The numbers were roughly staying around the high 600s. I mean, the lowest was 651. But obviously the highest 732. But I mean, if you take away those two, then they were pretty much consistently doing high 600,000s for the entire show. So yeah, definitely a step in the right direction for AEW, for Dynamite, for Tony Khan, for everybody involved. And could this be the start of a fight back? Could we see maybe some glory days in AEW's future? I mean, and who knows? The numbers have been really poor. They need to try and get back over 700,000 and then see if they can hit the 800k mark. I don't think AEW Dynamite's ever going to do 1 million again, to be fair. Could they do 800,000? I mean, I guess so. There's still a few things out there that AEW could do. I don't care what anybody says. Tony Khan's still got options. You've got Brock Lesnar there. He could bring in Goldberg, even though I don't think he would, but he could. You got the McMahons. Shane McMahon was teased. Why the fuck would you not tease Vince McMahon as well? There's options there for Tony Khan. If he wants to improve his show, if he wants to get eyes on the prize, then there's definitely things he can do. And I think that those 4 names, the McMahons, Brock Lesnar, Goldberg, I think those are things that you got to look at if you're Tony Khan. Anyway, guys, that's it. We're Fog Wrestling. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next one. And of course, until then, peace.